Welcome back, everybody. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Were they thick as thieves? Did Donald Trump find himself on the Lolita Express one too many times going to Little St. James? Yeah, probably. I mean, it seemed to be a center for the elite. So am I surprised that the Republican Party is saying, no, let's just forget about the whole Epstein thing. We don't need to know about the flight logs. We don't need to know about the client list. We don't need to know about all the blackmail and the potential ties to foreign governments and everything that happened there. We know that there were hundreds of victims, hundreds of children and young women who over the years were abused heavily by some of the most powerful people on the planet. But we don't need to know about those. No, we don't need to know anything about that. Let's just forget about it. Are people still talking about that? It's time to move on. It's ridiculous. And the backlash is well-deserved because this has been a major part of the campaign of Donald Trump and his administration, at least in the conversations at the base. If you know MAGA people, if you've had conversations with them, this has been something they've been talking about for a very long time. And more than just that, just people in general wanted to know. This is a moment, and this is something so terrible that the public needs transparency on this. Those who are participants in the escapades of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell need to be held accountable, or at least we need to know who they are, because those people need to be investigated. And that's not just, and that is a bipartisan thing. No one likes sexual abuse of minors. Nobody thinks that that's permissible. Maybe a few people. I mean, I specifically remember an interview of Donald Trump talking about Miss Teen USA or something like that, and say how he used to go back into the dressing room and they'd all be naked and he's not supposed to be in there. And that was gross. I thought that was gross back then. And this kind of confirms that. Really, I mean, this is kind of par for the course of somebody who would say something like that. If you're a creepy old guy who likes to go in the dressing room of Miss Teen USA pageants when there's a bunch of naked underage minors, am I going to put it past you that you're going to be on the Lolita Express going to Little St. James? No, I'm not. If anything, I'm going to be like, yeah, that makes sense, because somebody clearly has a penchant for the younger crowd. But yes, this goes beyond Trump. This is just the elite in general. And I think that's one of the reasons the Democrats didn't release it either, because there's a lot of names on those logs that probably would have incriminated the Democratic Party as well, just like it is the Republican Party. This island was a magnet for the rich and powerful. And over decades, it was an operation. Yeah, some of those powerful people in the world, popular names that we would know, were there. We already know that Bill Clinton went there. We already know that Bill Gates went there. We already know that Donald Trump was palling around with Jeffrey Epstein in New York. We know this. I mean, you have Prince Andrew from the UK. It's just out in the open. But when it comes time to actually release the names and actually fulfill the promises that you made to your entire base over the past decade, even though you have the audacity to blame this on the Democrats or anyone else when Epstein was taken out, clearly taken out, didn't do it himself while you were in power. You could have investigated it then, but you didn't. And now that you're in power, you're saying, oh, it's a big nothing burger. There's nothing going on. No one's believing it. No one's buying it, and it's good to hear. At least for a moment, it seemed that way. Because the initial reaction to Donald Trump saying, hey, well, we're still talking about this guy? It's time to move on. It's time to leave it in the past. He's just a ghoul. I didn't know him. I mean, I knew him. Yeah, I hung out with him. I went to his parties. But it's nothing else. The reaction to that, by the right, was the appropriate reaction, which was skepticism and deep suspicion. That is the correct reaction. Absolutely. But then just a day later, you have people like Charlie Kirk and that ilk coming out saying, well, it is what it is. We just have to believe the government. We trust the government. Well, at the same time, these people have been railing on and making millions of dollars, building up their entire media platform by saying that you can't trust the government. Yeah, I don't trust the government. But even with my sides in there, I'm not stupid enough to trust the government. The government's filled with greedy politicians and lobbyists who don't have your interest in mind. So the right went from that right and decent reaction just to going back and bootlicking the dear leader one more time, giving a big old slobby knob, because that's all this is. It's a quest for power for all these people who over the past 10 years have made their way from obscurity to national starlight, international starlight. Everyone knows who they are. They're rich now. They have big homes. People say their names. They get these losers, these people who used to be absolute losers and dorks, now get invited to dinner parties. Yeah, they don't want that to go away. They're going to appease their leader. The same people who said you can't trust the government, you can't trust the media, are turning out to be the exact people they warned you about. Surprise, surprise. A grifter is going to grift. That's all that it is. Just be honest. It's easy. I don't trust the government when Democrats are in charge. I don't trust the government when Republicans are in charge, because I know that they're bad for the American people inherently, because my entire life, no matter who's in charge, I've just seen things go downhill and get worse, and we lose more freedoms day by day, and the Constitution means even less, and our money is worth even less. Of course, I'll say that this administration is by far just the worst I've ever seen for an absolute myriad of reasons. And I'm sure a lot of you agree with that. Of course, you're going to have your onesies and twosies that no matter what this guy does, their tongue will forever be fixed to the fucking boot, because that's just who they are. They're losers who seek validation being the outsider, but not understanding that they're not the outsider, that they're the ones in power, and they're the ones making all the decisions that are making this country worse day by day. Yeah, Epstein was a villain, but he was only allowed to be a villain because our government, our administrators, our politicians, our celebrities, our allies allowed him to be that way. They allowed him to run that operation. They were all there, all going to parties. It's not a conspiracy. Everyone knows it's true. They just took the list and they buried it. Of course, probably one of the reasons they got rid of the congressional librarian, because at some point that evidence is supposed to be for public view. So what happens? Just take control of the Library of Congress. Start getting rid of documents that you don't like, that hurt your party, that hurt your potential to keep power in the future. Epstein isn't just a distraction, but it puts in danger the right, Trump, and the GOP's ability to continue to consolidate power in the U.S. government, taking it away from the people, taking it away from the voters. Doing things like what just came out, Trump telling Texas lawmakers to redraw the voting maps. That way they don't lose any seats to the House. It's just gerrymandering is all that it is. But this is from the side that said that there's no fair elections and that the elections are only going to be fair as long as they're in power. But no, it's just consolidation of power. That's all this is. There's no honor in this administration because it is an administration filled with thieves and liars. And we see it day by day. And if you don't acknowledge it at this point, if you don't acknowledge that every promise that you've been given has been absolutely broken, every truth that you were told ended up being a lie, when it comes time to actually validate those truths, they get turned away and buried in the dirt where you're never going to find them, because the fact is, the villains that you've been looking for the whole time are the people that you voted into office. So yeah, keep licking the boot. The initial reaction of anger and rage and suspicion of these people who are hiding that list of pedos was the right one. Justifying it and saying it's no big deal, we just need to stay the course, that is the wrong one. Force your policymakers, force your representatives, force the people that you elected to champion you to actually be accountable for the actions that you sign on for. Because when you sit back and say, well, this is a mistake, I don't like this isn't what we wanted, but it's better than the Democrats, then you dismiss and you ignore all the hard, bad shit that your side's actually doing to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. I wish we actually did have a movement where America was first, where Americans were first, because it's definitely not that way. This is oligarchs first. This is elites first. And dismissing the Epstein list and burying that and making sure it never sees the light of day is just confirmation that this government doesn't give a shit about the will of the people, doesn't give a shit about fulfilling any promises that they made to their base. And that is just one big circle jerk for the elites. That's all it is. Let them take away your Medicare. Let them take away your Section 8. Let them take away your food assistance. Let the food banks go dry. Let people go hungry. Let childhood insecurity grow and thrive as we take away free school lunches for poor kids. Let them hide the list of the most powerful pedophiles in the world so that they never see any accountability for their horrible, horrific actions that happen on that little island. This is why people oppose you now, and this is why people oppose this administration now. This is why the world opposes this administration and is moving to isolate and ostracize the United States of America, because we're a country that can't be trusted, and our leaders are actively committing crimes and hiding it from the rest of the world. That's not just how it looks, that's how it is. And we have to believe that it's how it is until they actually release those files and prove to us that those powerful people that we know are on it actually aren't. Going back and saying that, oh, this whole thing, the files were actually written by the Democrats so they can't be trusted. How convenient is that? How convenient is that when this entire thing happened under the watch of the Republicans, under the watch of Donald Trump? If he was the one who was supposed to go in and clean the swamps, the whole thing about Pizzagate, but he's the chef the whole time. He is the king of the swamp. And he's not going to be happy until he drags the rest of America into the swamp with him so he can rule over us. Hell no. Fuck that. Screw these people. If you still stand by this guy at this point, yo, you're freaking lost. There's no talking to you. There's no reason in you. There's no compassion to you, and you have no honor. None at all. You're just a fear-based lemming, jackboot thug who follows orders no matter what they are. And history never smiles on those people in the end. So enjoy your time in the limelight while you got it. If you're still here at this point, like and subscribe. Think about becoming a member. Tell us what you think. It's absolute madness, and it's all over the place. Everyone talking about it right now, and good. It should be. Keep talking about it. Keep these people's feet to the flame till they actually release that list. But just wait when it's actually released, and it's so redacted that there's not actually any names on it, or the selection of the names that are going to be released are only going to be ones that are seen as opponents to this party, because that's how this would work if they actually released anything at all. Because this whole thing is just a charade at this point, an absolute charade, and you can't be falling for it anymore. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Hope you have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the week. Live in freedom and just call these people out left and right because it's a scam. Our country's falling apart. We have these robber barons in charge, and we got to force them out of town at some point to actually save this country. Have a good one.